Hey y'all, I'm so excited. This is Lisa Zahiya, and this is another edition of our amazing men version of the Queen Shit Only podcast. I've been so inspired to talk to some of my favorite men collectively and individually. As you heard in the intro, I'm here with Sunny and Devan, two amazing coaches, two amazing men, and two amazing humans. And we're going to start by asking them a question. So, Devan, I'm going to start with you. What are you inspired by right now?
I love that question. And Lisa, thanks for having us today. Honestly, originality. And for me, that comes from being unapologetically authentic. I think actually at the moment, certainly with everyone being out there on social media, everyone sharing their story, it's hard to be truly original. And I think that comes from actually expressing your authentic self. Doesn't mean being obnoxious, doesn't mean doing something over the top. It just means putting your heart out there. And when I see a few people do it truly and deeply and it connects with me, I find that inspiring because it's one of the scariest things there is to do.
Absolutely. 100%. Sunny, what about you? What's inspiring you right now?
So 100%. I love what you said there, Devin. I can't wait to talk about that later. So what's inspiring me right now is actually the coming together of the world. Like we're seeing two different clashes, right? We're seeing like people being drawn apart, but then we're seeing people that are like-minded, that are greater-minded, that are coming together and doing things where we're adding to the world, contributing. Are you seeing people on like TikTok, all these different things? They're starting to all like post positive information and share with the world. That's getting me so excited. I feel like people are moving away from the news and the nonsense that sometimes we used to listen to now actually starting to take in more positivity, starting taking in more real people, like you said, actually, Devin. And that's what's exciting me because then it's a time for people to share their message, their wisdom, and their light to the world. I love that.
I love that. So this is interesting. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they're feeling very down on the world in general. And I was like, I'm super positive, and I'm feeling hopeful. They said they didn't feel hopeful, and I was like, if I'm not hopeful, what's the point? Um,
Yes.
and it's sort of like to me, everything has to be unearthed for us to. But there's all these people who are like, it's gonna be the age of Aquarius. Like, we're all gonna come together. So I am interested, like, partially this is interesting because I work with women so much, but I'm excited to connect with men. Devin, to the idea of originality, how do you see that and how have you been inspired by that in men?
So I've seen it mostly, and when it inspires me the most is men in their relationships actually showing up in the way they want to be without wishing to unearth and rehash the whole toxic masculinity versus superior masculinity or whatever terminology you might want to use. Let's kind of dispense with that for a moment and just cut through the BS and say at the heart of everything, we are all humans. Whether you wear a masculine mask or a feminine mask, whether you align with being male, female, or other, at the end of the day, we're all just, in my humble opinion, liquid love poured into physical form. At the end of the day, we're all souls. And for men to express themselves fully and say, hey, you know what, I'm scared, I don't know, and we'll figure it out, or to say, I love you no matter what, and to lean into that unknown and frankly to be vulnerable. There's that famous word again. That's what I find inspiring because there's so much pushing back against that. There's so much societal crap associated with that I think that's brave. And the reason why I find that inspiring is because that's the phase I'm in at the moment. With my business, with my career, with my relationship, is actually once and for all, after 38 years on this planet, peeling off the layers and actually saying, you know what, guys, this is me. And if I'm not enough, so be it, this is me. Because that's scary and hard and it hurts and there's an exposure in there. There's an emotional exposure in there. So when I see guys doing that in their relationships and in their businesses with that softness, that resonates with me a lot, and therefore I find it inspiring.
I love that. It's beautiful. Sunny, Mr. Dating Coach, what's your take on that?
That is so deep and beautiful. It's very, very powerful because you're right. The old way of looking at relationships, you'd think the male had to cover up here the vulnerability, the fear that they had, because they always had to be the protector, the strength. And what I love about what you said there was the deeper strength comes from you taking the leap of vulnerability. The deeper level of your growth takes that step of courage. Fascinatingly enough, the universe brings us together. Just this year, it's all been about being genuine and 100% honest. I had a coaching call with one of my coaches, one of my mentors, and she was saying to me, Sonny, you're 100% honest. I was like, I think I'm about 95, 96%. It's like, why? I was like, what do you mean, why? Like, ain't that normal? It's like, no, why aren't you completely honest? I was like, I don't know. I'm afraid that I'm going to hurt somebody. She goes, why didn't you say that? And, okay, what do I just say that? Like, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt you by saying this. If it was uncomfortable for me, however, this is how I feel. And she went, yeah. All right, okay, I'm going to try it. So I started trying it. It was amazing, actually, because people started resonating with me so deep that people were just like, wow, you know what? I really encourage you and really respect you for that authenticity and that honesty. And I have to back it myself. I have to say, look, it's hard for me to say that, but I want the best for you. So I pre-frame it in a way that makes them know that I got you. I'm saying this for you. I could save my breath. I could agree with you. It doesn't matter to me, but I want you to be better. And that's why I'm saying this. And when I started saying it in that way, everyone really started coming in closer. Everyone wanted more of that. And that's the power of that honesty. That's the power of that vulnerability and that courage that you speak about there. So I'm all in with that.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Gosh, that's super inspiring. Because if honestly, I'm gonna be honest. How honest am I? Like, I'm maybe at a 90.
Okay. Yeah.
Because sometimes I just keep it right here. Because
Yeah.
I love that you like approach it with love and you pre-frame it.
Mm.
I always think about somebody said to me once, the thing that can take you further, deeper into a relationship, any relationship, is saying the things that could also break it.
Yeah. It's
That's
a bit,
powerful.
Lisa, it's a bit like the only way you can go all in on a relationship is to give yourself permission to leave. It doesn't mean you're gonna leave. It just means it's okay. You give
Right.
yourself permission to, and suddenly you move closer. I mean, how many times have you had someone say something really tough to you or be brutally honest with you? You feel it pull you in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's different for us. No, we can't be honest. But when others are honest, that's a good thing.
Yeah. It's interesting too, like just to hear you both say this because like I'm single and I'm dating. And it used to be like, oh, what I thought was hot, like muscles and money. But now I had a guy the other day, he's like, oh, I could talk after this time because I'll be at therapy. And I was like, hey. Because it's like,
I love that.
does the man like understand and own? Because I think, Sonny, you tell me what you think. Part of what you're saying is that you're also owning what you're saying.
Right.
Like it's
So
me.
there's that massive part in owning what you're saying. And this is actually one thing I'm advising all my clients to do right now is own your journey, right? So I'm like, own your journey from where you were before to where you are now. Like I'm asking them, because a lot of people have this false pretense because of social media, because of other things, because of conditioning of the world, to be like, no, I just haven't met the right partner. Okay. You're like, yeah, that's fine. But you're 38 years old. You haven't met the right partner. Come on, you met loads of people. What you want about?
Yeah.
When you talk about your healing journey or the journey that you've been on in between, like, look, I haven't met the right partner because before I didn't value myself. Before I didn't know what I wanted. Before I was lost. And now I'm in this place. It adds so much power to it. A lot of my clients were going, no, I've just not met them. And I was understanding, why ain't it working? They're amazing people. Why ain't it working out? It was because the other person was making an illusion of why the relationship wasn't working with the other person. So for example, if my client was dating and she was like, no, I've just not met them, the person's already finding in their brain a bit more of that survival side. They're looking into it and they're going, why hasn't she found somebody? There's a fault. Or why hasn't he found somebody? There's a fault. I'm looking for the fault. I'm looking for the fault. Instead, you tell them the fault. In the past, I didn't do this, but now I've healed it. this is who I am now. They're like, oh, that makes sense. And then the brain can relax, the person can relax, because you're like, I get that you've done work to improve yourself. I believe that's why for you, when that guy said, I've just done therapy, you're like, yes, I know about this healing work. I'm with you.
Yeah. That's beautiful, and it's like I love the idea. Also, like we find what we're looking for. So if I'm looking for the fault, but if somebody's talking about their healing journey, that's really beautiful. Um,
Mm.
Devan, you're a new parent.
Yes.
How does that like you're talking about this originality?
Mm.
It takes so much bravery to be honest, and I just want to observe. I think that's especially true as a man. What how has having a new daughter like changed your perspective on that?
Oh man. So two things come up for me when you ask that question. One of them is that actually, and this started when she was really little and just a little peanut-sized human, where when the baby's crying and you can't stop it, you've been through all the different steps, and it's probably that they can feel your energy. I would actually say to her out loud, to keep myself calm apart from anything else, and a way to connect with her, I'd say, I don't know what to do. This is upsetting me. I'm struggling as much as you are. And it sounds crazy, but I would say out loud to her, as this tiny infant who can't take on any communication other than energetic, I would explain to her that I was struggling too. And somehow, weirdly, it made us connect and it would calm her down. So that is one example of how I've realized that, frankly, sharing how you're feeling somehow helps connection.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I would say is exploring and experimenting with different ways to, I guess, entertain her and connect with her. Like, I'm not too proud to admit that every night before bed, we dance together. Like, I am a horrible, horrible dancer. And I'm good with that, but I will run around and gyrate around the kitchen, listening to music. And that to the point where now, if I just hit go on any one of the Sonos speakers in our house and there's music playing, she'll start moving her hips and come and find me. Like, it's just like, I'm not supposed to dance and gyrate around the house. I'm supposed to be this masculine man. Nonsense. It's one of the highlights of my day. So those are a couple of things that are just brand new to me. And I think at the heart of those are expression of who you are without fear of what it's going to look like or whether it fits a stereotype. It feels good in the moment and I'm going to express it that way. And that's a big lesson for me, not only to do that and have the courage to do that, but also to then realize that it's accepted and it's received well, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. That honestly, that's another one though, that like if I hear a man be like, "Oh, I dance with my daughter for fun," like I'm at the phase of my life where I'm like, "That's hot." But it's like because it is like connection, it's vulnerability, it's and also like loving and appreciating your own child, you know, but that I think that's amazing. So, Sunny, you talked about this great coming together, which I'm not sure is a way a lot of people would describe the world right now.
Mm.
Um, what are you doing from because I'm hearing a lot of people, men, women, everyone, just feeling down right now. So, what are you doing to put yourself in that mindset and to see and have hope right now?
Mm. Yeah, so I'm creating more events. So I'm creating like more of these events of bringing people together, and I'm seeing the value that it's having, and also the conversations around consciousness being more lifted, right? I believe that the reason why I'm unlocked to that way of thinking, and I'm not seeing it as a negative, because I'm not actually indulging in all the news. I'm not over focusing on it. I'm actually focusing on and seeing what the people are doing outside of it, how they're contributing, how they're sharing, how they're wanting to be nicer. You know, these last couple of years have been tough on everybody. Like some people really succeeded, some people were always going through a hard time, and it really amplified that. A lot of businesses went down. I know personally, one of yours did, and you pivoted amazingly. And these kind of things stop people in their normal pattern of behavior. However, what's happened is an emergence of a new pattern of behavior, TikTok. No, other areas as well, right? But it is where we're focusing our attention on different areas. And that's where it's important to me. And that's what I encourage is focus on what you want to focus on, what you want to achieve. If you are feeling hopeless, then maybe focusing on the news and the outside circumstances too much. Where if you're feeling like a coming together, focus on a community of people that are doing similar things. You know, I'm grateful to be on this podcast with you. And I know that we're all always aligned in this area of adding value, giving to the world, even if it's a positive message or Instagram post. You know, them things are very important. And I'm seeing them more and more with people just sharing better things in life. And that's what's making me think that there's also a greater coming together as a separation, a lot of fear. However, more people are coming to awaken to more things.
Beautiful. I love that. Devan, do you feel hopeful right now?
Yes. Yeah, actually more so than ever, to be honest. And I'm convinced it actually isn't down to real world results. It's down to what I'm now habitually choosing to focus on. You guys know this, what you focus on, you feel, right? And Sunny, using your terminology around a great coming together, even if only 50 million people in the world are coming together and the other 7 point whatever billion are not, that's 50 million people that are coming together. I would call that a great coming together. And if that's what you're focused on, that's what you're going to call it. And you're choosing to. I honestly think some of the mental states we experience, it's kind of binary. We're kind of either up or down. And I think it's down to what we choose to focus on primarily and the meaning we attach to what's going on. You know, it's cheesy saying, but what's going wrong in your life or in the world is always available to you. There's always something that's not to your liking or whatever, but so is what's right. And if you choose to focus on that, you're going to feel hopeful as a minimum, probably more like excited and looking forward to the future. So am I feeling hopeful? Yeah, more than ever, because I'm continually training myself to look for and sniff out what's going well and what I appreciate and what I'm excited about, rather than focusing on all the things that are going wrong. Because there's a lot going wrong. There really is.
Yeah, and they're always like, when people are like, this is the worst, I'm like, if you read history books, like there's been a lot of bad things that have happened. And like humans are fallible, and I feel like that's what I also really absorbed during COVID is like, you know, like we're not very good at keeping ourselves together, but there's also such a beauty in humanity. And just like the other day, like something very dramatic just happened in New York. There was a shooting in the subway. And that day, you know, it was hard to feel hopeful. And I was sitting outside, and there was like this beautiful little boy. He was probably 2, and he was like just playing with a fountain, and he would hold the water up, and like a rainbow would happen. And I was just like, there's so many good things in this world.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned humanity as a whole like that, and almost the polarity of how we respond, because the more I'm around on this planet and the more I do this work with people, the more I realize that the capacity for human love and kindness is just unparalleled. I mean, some of the ways you see people lean into tragedy and how they deal with it, it literally makes your heart swell. And sadly, the other end of the spectrum is true too. I mean, we are, myself included at times when I'm triggered, we can just be so mean and so, they're like angry cavemen and cavewomen and act in such a short-sighted, selfish way. And that entire spectrum is available to all of us. It's just where you choose to put yourself on it. And I'm convinced that's down to what you focus on and what you value most. Yeah.
Well, I remember in the past, I used to actually really think about my world as my world, right? And that was majority reason why that was because of myself. I was in my survival mindset. I was thinking so much that everything's happening against me, everything's happening for me. I was really creating a lot of challenges everywhere, right? So I was like, this person's angry at me, I'm angry at them, I'm blaming this person. I'll be in relationships and an argument will happen. I will blame that person, you know, it's very easy to find blame. I would find it in the best ways. It was the way you smiled, it was the way you did this, it was the way you were 2 minutes late. All these things would come up in my mind. And constantly I was living in that world. And that was kind of the I world. And when we're looking at humanity as a one, when we're looking at it as I, we actually separate ourselves from the world. And we're looking at the blame of the other person. That's exactly what I was living in. What was that causing me? It's causing me anger. It's causing me frustration. It's causing me a lot of things. However, I thought that was life. I just thought this was life. I was like, you're meant to be frustrated and angry, because I would see other people frustrated and angry. I'm like, this is normal, isn't it? Until, yeah, it's not normal. Until a
Not.
point in life where I started looking outside, like, how can I be more for someone else? Darren, you're a proud father and it resonates from you. I could imagine even your oneness has gone to a whole new level when you're looking at a daughter now, when you're thinking about her needs. And when you do that, you become more one with more, and then more one with humanity, right? That's how I think.
The correlation between human suffering and when we make it about ourselves is so clear. I remember when I told close friends, including a friend and neighbor a few doors down from me on the street where I live, when I told him we were expecting a daughter, he was really sweet and really excited for us. And he said, by the way, just so you know, you're entering a phase of your life where nothing is about you. And I laughed and kind of thought, uh-oh, what does that mean? First of all, he could not be more right. And second of all, it's the most amazing lesson. Because when I don't make it about me, when I just move into action to help with something, serve my wife in some way, spend time with my daughter, and I just take myself out of my own problems, suddenly the problems don't exist. It's wild. And I think there's huge power in that. When we make it about us, we suffer. I really think it's that straightforward. That doesn't mean don't take action to make your life better. It doesn't mean you don't matter. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in the moment, in an argument, or in something that goes the way you don't want it to, or you have to do something you don't want to, if you make it about I, you will feel suffering. You just will. And when you turn that spotlight out onto others and you think about what's the good in it, what can I get from it, how can I grow from it, who can I help, who can I serve, it completely changes the experience. And frankly, I've been forced to do that by having a kid. I'm grateful for that, by the way. And it's just an amazing lesson.
Yeah. The thing that I think about all the time, which I would imagine parenting really like amplifies, is just like there's so much beauty in, like, I got this from the Course in Miracles, but like nothing means anything and all meaning is assigned.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think about all the time is I listen to this interview with Shaun White, who's a famous
Snowboarder, yeah.
Olympic snowboarder. And he said, I get in the Olympics, which he's won multiple gold medals, I get to the top of that run and I think about my mother and I think about how that's what matters and this doesn't matter. And he's like, I'm able to do my best because I realize that it's actually not that important.
Yeah, maybe that's a version of detachment.
Yeah, it's letting go.
Letting go. Yeah. Which is just like so amazing. And like, I think we put so much importance on, and this goes back to men, like, how much are you earning? How much are you, like, I feel a lot of pressure as a woman. I think it's interesting, and I'm curious about your perspectives of like American exceptionalism, like what we require our men to do. That all of a sudden I'm on Instagram and there's these men with like machine guns in front of a flag, being like, "I'm a man," and I'm like, "Well, oh."
Yeah.
So in that, like, how do you, Sunny? How do you stay in a mindset where you're able to focus, let go, and focus on what matters?
Well, it's something really powerful in what we're saying here and letting go and the whole process of it. And I've been thinking about it over the last year massively in terms of like, what did Buddha mean? What is this whole detachment? What is going on with that? I remember there was a time I felt like I had to let go of my wife. And I was like, whoa, what am I doing? I don't want to let go. I want to hold on. I want to hold on. And then I had to understand it at a deeper level. It wasn't letting go of her, but it was letting go of if this relationship wasn't working for us. So we had a patch where I was like, okay, you know what? Right now, this relationship isn't working to the highest of level, and I'm happy to let it go. And then we had the conversation. I was just saying to her, like, look, I won't say her name, but I was like, look, I'm happy for this relationship to end if we're not happy. I'm happy to walk away from this relationship because I have another 60, 70 years, and I'm happy to let go of that. But in that power came this essence that was like, no, I'm stepping up. And we were both like, agreed to step up to play at a different level. And it actually resolved the relationship because part of the brain was saying, let's hold on to it and just settle for this relationship to work, make it just work in this kind of confinement, and just kind of agree to the acceptance of the world that, oh, well, sometimes relationships are like this, marriage might be like this, X, Y, Z. So I was like, look, I'm happy to let this go. I'm happy to go. And you're a beautiful woman. You can move on. I can move on. There's no issue. Have a good life. I'll be here for you if you ever need it. In that power gave a great strength because now we've got to see each other properly. It was as if we didn't see each other for the marriage or the ring or the agreements that we made. It was actually, I saw you for the energy that we're putting into the relationship. I'm seeing you for this relationship and the level of happiness that we're bringing. And if we're not bringing that happiness, then we can go, which is scary.
It's so beautiful, and that is so like it's such a brave, like a lot of what we're talking about is bravery.
And,
Yeah.
what is it that allows us to be brave and courageous? And
What?
this is something that's coming out for me now, it's certainly my experience, is faith.
Mm.
I mean, everyone has their own definition of faith, but acknowledging, at least for me, that there is so much of my life and my life experience that I just can't control. And I'm learning to be okay with that. That doesn't mean sitting on your backside, not taking any action and waiting for money or success or a relationship to land in your lap. That's not at all what I mean. I think it's our job to step up to the plate in an open or up frame of mind to take action. That's our job. Knowing how many people are going to show up to an event or what the person's going to say in response or whether this business idea is going to work, like the stuff that's in the non-controllable, that ain't your job, puny human. It's your job to be open and loving and kind and generous and to give and to show up. The rest of it's up to God, the universe, whoever, whatever you believe in. Stop trying to do the metaphysical work. Do your work. Stay in your lane. And I've found in moments when I'm terrified, business and relationship come to mind, when there's that vulnerability, I'm only overwhelmed and it only seems too big when I'm trying to control something that isn't mine to control. And that act of just going, poof, that's yours. I give that back. I can't control that. Whoever, whatever you are, that's yours. This is mine. It brings a tremendous sense of empowerment and some comfort, actually, that I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to do what I do, and the chips fall where they fall.
Yeah, I love that. I always think about that imagery of like also like this is holding on, right? Like not letting go, and this is letting go. Like
Yeah.
it's such
Yeah.
a beautiful imagery of like this is what it means to receive.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get what you want from the universe when you've got a death grip on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just like you do this, and I feel like this uncomfortable tension,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I mean, I think that's why people get really sick. Inflammation is like, it's this constantly. I'm gonna try to control everything, and that's also how like negative attachment happens, and all of these things.
What fascinates me with this, Lisa, is where does it come from? Why have we, for the vast majority of our lives, behaved that way and thought that way? Why does most of Western and developed society behave that way? Like, why don't we teach this stuff in schools? Detachment is sexy, people.
Have you heard of the success formula?
Yes,
Yeah,
Tell
I
me.
think it's a landmark training.
that's right.
They talk about the success formula, and it's what gets you to X, Y, and Z. You think that formula will help you in everything else. So for example, if you were to put out content online and it was getting you good results, then you're like, all you have to do is put yourself out online and you're always going to succeed. And then you do it on Tinder and all that, and you're like, I'm putting myself online, why aren't I succeeding? And like,
Yeah.
man, where's going wrong? So you keep doing the formula until you're frustrated, because that's where we form a pattern, because we relate a positive correlation to it. We're like, oh, well, this worked, but then we don't really know the unknown. We don't know the next level. We don't know how to get to the next level by doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So then that's where that kind of control comes in, I believe. And then
Yeah.
when it doesn't work, you're like, but it worked in the past. Like, come on, it can't change. It can't change. And we're holding on to that thought. And I love that imagery of that tension. When you feel that tension in your handle inside of your body, it's like that grip is so bad. I met someone recently and he was telling me about a past relationship. Still got me. Sorry, yeah. He was telling me about a past relationship. He was telling me like dominance is how relationships work. And this man was saying like you have to be super dominant to get a woman to like you. And his energy, I ran a dating event, his energy was so off-putting. And he's like, I'm gonna go talk to this girl. I was like, don't talk to her with this energy, like calm, relax, take some breaths. He's like, no, but girls like dominance. I'm like, yeah, psycho girls do, right? Calm down. Like, are you looking for somebody more or not? I'm like, you have to relax. Like, how should I do this? All this tension was built up inside of him. And he may have got it from these pickup books, or he may have got it from his father. I'm not sure. Like, because a lot of these formulas are passed down to us as well, right?
Yeah.
And that habit he had, I had to bar him from the next event. I was like, you ain't coming with that. Not with that kind of dominance. So that is too much. Trying to create a safe space here, not a safe, a aggressive space or a dominant space as such. Man.
Yeah, and that word, dominant, like somebody walks in, they're like, especially just met somebody, like it's a stranger, I'm gonna dominate you. I'm like, I have to go.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
My cat called. I don't have a cat, but it called me. Yeah, it's such an interesting space. One of the things that this brings up for me that I've been thinking about recently is this idea of like an energetic minimum, that like in every space in my life, instead of having a success formula, I'm thinking about what's the energetic minimum I want to align myself with. So, to be transparent and fully honest, right when I moved to the city, right after I'd gone through a breakup, I started dating and it was a hot mess. Like people ghosting, just like, ugh. People talking about dominating, and I was like, I gotta go. But then I did a bunch of work. I did work on healing. And then I thought, I set an energetic minimum of like, I want positive interactions with amazing people. And in that, I want to look for this person, but I just want every interaction to be like beautiful and high vibe. And I really thought about what actions do I need to take? What do I need to think? I'm not going to say things like all men are assholes, because that, and I have been dating, and I haven't like found the man, but it has been so beautiful and fun and joyful and amazing. And I took this concept and I also do it with business. Like, what's my energetic minimum for how much I want to make a month, who I want to bring in? And it's transformed everything.
I love that. It's very different to the kind of goals-based outcome focus we normally have. And I think
that one on.
Yeah, I think that's also acknowledging a lot of the stuff we've discussed, Lisa, that you're showing up in a state, a vibration, if you want to go that way, which produces results, but you're not doing it to get the results. You're doing it because you want to feel that way. Yes.
And I think the hard work in that is, as soon as something, and if we go into the science, it's I'm looking at what I'm focusing on is what I'm bringing in, and I'm able to transform. I'm not going in with these like, oh, I need to meet the man of my dreams. I've had people, you walk in and you're like, this isn't going to be it, but like, what an amazing human I just connected with. And we had fun and a beautiful conversation. And I'm so lucky that that gave me some insight about getting closer to the relationship I want.
Yeah, just the way you describe that, demonstrates the power of it. I don't know if you noticed that in yourself, but you said that means you're getting closer to the relationship. How many people would say, oh my God, TikTok, that's another one that didn't work. You know, it's now however many months. You didn't say it that way.
Yeah.
You acknowledge that means you're now closer.
Yeah.
That's a game changer right there.
And it sort of goes to, I was at this manifestation event recently, and of course I was, and the presenter said, like, you really succeed when you realize it's all a game and you're just like, game on. So I'm like playing the game and it's fun, and also doing that with my business and with friendships. Like, what's my energetic minimum?
I
Yeah.
love
What's
that.
really exciting for me right now is actually looking at manifestation and putting it into the real world. It's not too far away, you know, like a lot of people have manifestation as like quite spiritual, quite conscious, quite out there. But then the real world's like set goals, show up, be this person, and believe you're going to achieve it. Both lines aren't too much different, right? Like, they're very similar. And I believe that we must have been hooked onto it in the past, and then we renamed it to just goals, and then people got frustrated with goals because they've set too high targets, too much of a demand for themselves. So they were like, I'm just gonna manifest it into my life and not do nothing, trying to take that route. But I always find that they both just go down the same path. And they both just lead you to where you need to get to. It's about like letting go again. Like the reason why I really liked your energetical minimal there, you're letting go of the control of it. You're actually just saying, what I'm having here, what I'm meeting are these type of people, and the right person's going to come along. However, you just keep on attracting incredible people into your life because of that. But you haven't got no control on it. You're not hooked onto anything. And then that's where the goals, we can get hooked onto goals sometimes, where manifestation, it's again the same. You can get hooked onto the one thing and you're like, I'm destined for this. Some of my clients will come in and they will tell me stuff like, yeah, he has to be 6'1", he has to have abs, he has to be this, he has to be that. And I'm like, okay, what if he's 6 foot? Well, that doesn't matter. I'm like, okay, sure, because you said 6'1" and so adamant. Okay, that's cool then. Like, you know, there might be a ranking order. You might be able to squeeze some things in and squeeze them away. But when I do look at this whole manifestation, spiritual world, and looking at it as a game, it's so much fun. Right? And just the meaning that we was talking about earlier, when we put in a meaning of life is a good game, like a fun game, you get to take more opportunity. You get to dance around with your daughter. You get to just push yourself to the highest of limits and actually try manifestation, try other things, do everything you want. When you're like, life needs to be hard. And it was a good friend of ours called Sylvia that actually introduced me to that. She said to me on a group call lecture once, and she was like, when did you decide that earning money had to be hard? And I was like, what? Did I decide that?
I'm gonna take it back.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say that, did I? And then when she said that, I was like, wow, that's so true. Because then everything I had to do had to be hard in order for me to feel a sense of achievement, to earn money. And like in every area of life, relationships are hard. And love, being a father is hard. Your life goes away when you're a father. That's it. Yeah. Instead, my life has just opened up to a new level, right? And it was the same when I realized that earning money could be very easy and very fun. It was like, I deserve this more. Where we was talking a little bit just before we jumped on this podcast, Lisa and us, just quickly about talking about shame about being single, right? The consciousness. I think there's a shame in not working hard and earning money, doing something that you enjoy and love. And there's a lot of shame attached to that. And that's where people overcome it with like force and anger and these kind of areas, and also relationships and stuff, because they're putting force into it because they believe it's the right formula, and that's holding them back. When we unlock that, and when we unlock that on that call, for me, it was like a game changer. And I was like, man, money just comes really easy. And it started to really come in that way as well.
Yeah, which is a beautiful, like, new energetic minimum, you know, like, I'm gonna make this easy. So I feel like I could talk to the two of you forever, and maybe we should just start our own podcast. Uh,
Yes.
it'd be so fun.
It'd be fun.
I'm already like, wow, we blew my mind today. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, Devin, what are you working on personally right now? And what is your big message for the world at the moment?
Two things come up for me. The biggest challenge for me right now is what inspires me the most. At the top of the call, we talked about leaning in and being vulnerable and speaking your truth. And for me, at the heart of that, as I mentioned, is faith. It is a moment to moment practice for me to hand back the bits I can't control and to just be okay with the chips falling where they fall and to stay in my lane and do my bit. That is a daily challenge for me, and certainly a huge area of growth. And I think my message to everyone would be, it's an inner game, folks. We spend so much time, especially, you guys know I work with burnt out, stressed out corporate executives. And it's exactly what you talked about. It's the tension and the stress and the pressure in the system because they're working so damn hard to control everyone and everything out there. And all of them have these big to-do lists and these goals and demands and dreams and expectations. And tell me, is it easier to control everyone and everything around you? And when it gets to just where you want it to be, you can feel okay. Or does it make sense to learn how to master the inner game so that you feel the way you want to feel and then take that out there to go make things the way you want them to be? I know which one most of the world is doing. So that's my message, is work harder on yourself than you do on anything else, and your life will be magnificent.
Beautiful. I love it.
That's
Sunny,
the punchline.
what are you working on right now, and what's your message for the world?
So what I'm working on right now is I'm doing more events now actually. So I'm doing like these live single events that does coaching to help people lift their consciousness before they get into the relationship, which I'm super excited about actually, because it's a combination of coaching and singles. I think if I was single, I would love that. So that's why I'm creating it, to help people come together and to be open and vulnerable in a safe space, to really let go of the false personas as much as it can over a short period, false personas, and connect and actually have that opportunity to connect more with the soul. So that's what I'm working on, these dating events. It's going to be international, New York. I'll see you both there. It's going to be everywhere because that's what I believe is missing from the world right now. And my message to the world would be, I love this. I actually got it from Tony Robbins. It's one of mine that really lives deep inside of me. It goes, all you need is within you now. And when we're really looking and fighting and pushing things for outside, when I remind myself, and I want everyone else to remind themselves that all you need is within you, that means the strength, the courage, the love, everything that you need is already inside of you, the intelligence. It's just about opening it up and unlocking it and trusting that process, right? Having faith to bring it out.
Oh, that's beautiful. So good, you two. So good. This is really fun. You're both two of my favorite people in the whole world and making me believe wonderful, beautiful things about men. So thank you. And I'll put all the info about how to get in touch with both of you in the notes. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been
We love
such a
you, Lisa.
pleasure.
Yay.
Yeah, we love you.
Sonny,
We'll see
great
you
to see you, brother.
soon.